I turned my head and my breath caught in my throat. He was standing there. Just standing. Not moving, not reacting, not yelling. His face was unreadable, his posture unnervingly calm. No anger. No pain. Just an eerie stillness that sent a chill crawling up my spine. The car felt suffocating. The heat from the kiss still lingered on my lips, but now it burned with guilt, with panic. My stomach twisted into a tight knot. My hands trembled on my lap. I could still feel the weight of his best friend's touch on my skin, the way he had leaned in, the way I hadn't stopped him. And now my husband was watching. A bead of sweat slid down my back. I swallowed hard. My pulse pounded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. My mouth opened but no words came out. The dim streetlight cast long shadows, stretching his figure across the pavement. He didn't move. Just stood there a few feet away, eyes locked on mine through the windshield. Had he seen everything? Had he been standing there the whole time? I glanced at the rearview mirror and that's when I realized I hadn't noticed him approach. He had been there before I even turned around. He had been watching. Silent. Unflinching. Oh God. How long? I wanted to run. To disappear. To rewind time. But I was trapped, frozen in place by the weight of my own choices. Then, darkness. A week earlier. I had no idea a simple evening would turn my life upside down. My husband left early that morning, kissing my forehead before grabbing his suitcase and walking out the door. I watched from the window as his car disappeared down the street, feeling the strange emptiness settle over the house. Hours passed, silence stretching, pressing in. Then my phone buzzed. A message. You home? Want some company? It was his best friend. My fingers hesitated over the screen. We had always gotten along, but we had never spent time alone. Still, there was no harm in it, right? Sure, why not? An hour later, he was at my doorstep, smiling, casual, as if this was completely normal. We sat in the living room, sipping wine, laughing at old memories. Conversation flowed effortlessly. But then mid-laugh, his hand brushed mine. Just for a second. But he didn't pull away. My heart stuttered. A flicker of something new flashed in his eyes. It was subtle, barely there. But in that moment something shifted. And I wasn't sure I could ignore it. I didn't even know who made the first move. But when his lips touched mine, I didn't pull away. It started as something harmless. A casual walk through the park, crisp autumn air swirling around us, laughter filling the spaces where doubt should have been. He talked about my husband, how lucky he was, how he admired the way I supported him through everything. His voice was soft, his words deliberate, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that had never been there before. Pause. A shift. Something unspoken. When the sun dipped below the trees, we headed back to his car. Silence wrapped around us, thick and heavy. Neither of us moved to leave. My pulse pounded as he turned to face me. He didn't speak, didn't ask, didn't hesitate. He just leaned in. I should have stopped him. But I didn't. The moment stretched, lingering too long, too deep, too dangerous. Reality snapped back. I gasped, pulled away, fumbled for the door handle and bolted into the night, breathless, shaking but unable to forget the way it felt. I knew it was wrong. But why did I crave that moment again? I told myself it was a mistake, a lapse in judgment, a fleeting impulse that meant nothing. But the lie tasted bitter. I moved through the motions of normal life, greeting my husband with a smile, asking about his day, setting the table, pretending everything was fine. But inside I was unraveling. My mind kept replaying that kiss, the way his hand had hovered near my skin, the way my breath had caught when he leaned in. Then my phone buzzed. A message. You felt it too, didn't you? My fingers hovered over the screen. I didn't reply. I couldn't. But my heart pounded so hard it drowned out the noise of my husband talking. That night, I lay beside him in bed, staring at the ceiling, his steady breathing in the darkness. I should have felt safe. I should have felt whole. But all I could think was, why did I only feel alive when I was with someone else? I kissed my husband. But in that moment I was thinking of someone else. I had spent the entire day convincing myself that what happened was nothing, just a moment of weakness, an accident that meant less than I was making it out to be. So I planned a perfect night. Candles, soft music, his favorite meal. I wanted to feel normal again, to remind myself of what we had. He smiled at me across the table, his eyes warm, filled with love, with certainty. I should have felt safe. Instead I felt trapped. When he leaned in and kissed me, it was slow, familiar, comfortable. But it didn't ignite anything. No rush. No fire. No stolen breath. Just the realization that something inside me had already shifted. Guilt curled in my stomach, but beneath it something else simmered. Something dark, something thrilling. I wanted to feel alive again. That night, as I lay in bed beside him, my phone vibrated on the nightstand. One message. "We need to talk." My pulse jumped. I didn't even have to check who it was from. I knew I was making a mistake. But I couldn't stop myself. I told my husband I was meeting an old friend for dinner. A harmless excuse, easy to believe. The truth was sharper, heavier. When I arrived, he was already there, waiting, his gaze locking onto mine the second I stepped inside. My heart pounded. The restaurant was dimly lit, filled with the low hum of conversations, clinking glasses, and laughter. But between us there was only silence, thick with something unspoken. He didn't look away. Neither did I. The moment I sat down, I felt it, the slow burn of something inevitable. We made small talk, but every word felt pointless, every second stretched too thin. Then his voice dropped, low and deliberate. "We've already gone too far." I swallowed hard. I should have gotten up. I should have left. But I didn't. "But you want this as much as I do." My breath caught. He was right. The pull between us was too strong, too deep. My resolve crumbled. I leaned in, and in that moment I surrendered. I had no idea he already knew. That he had seen us. That my secret was never really a secret at all. I told myself I had everything under control, that I could balance both lives without slipping. My husband didn't ask where I was anymore. No casual, "How was your day?" No, "Did you have fun?" Just silence. At first I thought it was a good thing. Less pressure. Fewer lies. But then I started noticing the way he looked at me. Longer than before, as if studying something he couldn't quite name. His phone calls during the day became rare, his once routine check-ins now non-existent. The shift was subtle, but it gnawed at me. Had something changed? One night, as I lay in bed scrolling absently through my messages, my screen lit up with a text. "You have no idea how close the truth really is." My breath hitched. My hands went cold. My mind raced, grasping at possibilities. I stared at the words, my pulse hammering. Who sent this? What truth? And how much did they already know? We kissed, and then I saw him. I should have known it would spiral out of control, that playing with fire only ever ends one way. But I let it happen. Again and again. That night, everything felt reckless, electric. A dinner with friends, laughter, subtle glances across the table. Then a game of billiards in the lounge, a harmless way to pass the time. I had never been good at it, but I liked the challenge. As I lined up my shot, struggling to find the right angle, my husband's best friend chuckled, stepping in behind me. Without a word, he handed me his cue stick. Longer, heavier, easier to control. I hesitated, took it, adjusted my grip. The moment felt too charged. I ignored it. Focus. The shot was perfect. The ball rolled, disappeared into the pocket. Cheers erupted around me, but my mind was somewhere else. Replaying the way he had leaned in, the way his hand had brushed mine. Later, alone in his car, we didn't bother pretending anymore. His lips met mine, deep, urgent. I melted into him. Then, movement. My eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. A figure. Watching. I froze, my stomach plummeting. Fully I turned. My husband stood just outside, his face unreadable. My pulse stopped. He had seen everything. And I had no way out. He didn't yell. He didn't ask questions. That was worse. When I walked into the house, he was already there, standing by the bed, methodically folding shirts into a suitcase. No rush. No hesitation. Just quiet, controlled movements that sent ice through my veins. My breath hitched. "Wait," I started, stepping closer, but he lifted a hand. Not in anger. Not in frustration. Just a simple, deliberate motion that stopped me cold. "Don't," he said, his voice eerily calm. There's nothing left to say. My heart pounded. The weight of the moment crashed over me. Please, I didn't even know what I was about to say. An excuse? A plea? Some pathetic attempt to undo what I had done? He exhaled slowly, staring at the half-packed suitcase. "I've known for a while." The words knocked the air from my lungs. "I just wanted to see how far you'd go." My stomach twisted. I had been so careful, so sure I was in control. But I wasn't. He had been watching, waiting, letting me dig my own grave. And now he was done. I thought it was just a mistake. But it cost me everything. He didn't look back. He grabbed his suitcase, walked out the door, and left me standing there in the deafening silence of our home. No, his home now. The sound of the car engine starting sent a final, sinking realization through me. He was really gone. I wanted to scream, to chase after him, to say something that would make it all go away. But there was nothing left to say. My phone sat on the table, face up, screen dark. No messages. No calls. I checked anyway. Nothing. My hands shook as I scrolled through our old conversations, through meaningless texts that now felt like relics from another life. Then I searched for his best friend. No new messages. No missed calls. Nothing. He was gone too. Just like that. They had both erased me. I stared at my own reflection in the screen, my face pale, eyes hollow, expression twisted with regret. How did I destroy everything? For what? But the worst part? I didn't even have an answer.